Hi, my name is Dwight Gillespie. Welcome back to the Change Your Life podcast. If you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, and by all means, share. If you hear something you like here and you think that you have a friend or family member that can benefit from it, because those things aren't always the same. If you have a friend or family member that can benefit, by all means, share the information with them. We like to think that we give you good suggestions for living life here. Anyway, okay, let's get into it. Today, we are going to talk about something that sounds really corny, but it's absolutely true. And it was actually a subject that a friend of mine brought up to me when I was really struggling with food. And it is to be a better friend to yourself, right? And it sounds really corny and all that, but it's true. And he pointed it out to me. He was sick, and I said, "Well, is there anything I can do to help you?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, he says, "I can't make it out." He said, "Could you go do some food shopping for me, and bring it down?" Now, he lives in a place called Rockaway, which is, I mean, it's not far from here. I live in Queens, New York City, so nothing is really that far, but it's far enough. And at the time, I was really struggling, and I hated food shopping and all this stuff. But my friend wasn't feeling well, and he knew he could get me to come out and go shopping for him and bring it down to him and even put it away and even cook him a meal if need be. And he said, "Doesn't it strike you as odd that you're willing to do that for me and not for yourself?" He said, "You're a really good friend to a lot of people and you go out of your way for people, but you don't seem to be willing to do that for yourself." And it was really funny too. Like I never really thought about that before. And all the things that I'm willing to do for other people that at the time anyway, I really wasn't willing to do for myself. Go shopping, cook meals, make plans, help people plan things, talk to people when they're not feeling well. And I found that to be the truth. I'm more willing to be generous with my friends than I am with myself. I'm more willing to take time to talk to my friends than to have somebody talk to me. I always feel when people ask me, to talk, it's called sponsorship. I sponsor a lot of people in a 12-step program. And I'm always willing to spend time. But when it comes, like if I'm having a hard time with something, if I'm going through some personal crap, I'm very reluctant to reach out to people sometimes because I don't want to bother them. I don't want to put them out. I don't want to, but these are things that I'm more than willing to do for myself. And I think what happens is, that maybe I don't know what it is. Maybe I think I'm a better person than they are, but I don't. I mean, I don't think I really consciously believe that. Maybe I think my friends are more worthy of help than I am. That might be part of it. I don't know, but I do know that I'm far more willing to go out of my way for other people than I am for myself. And I think that had to change to a great extent in order to take care of myself and what I really needed. And one of that was to learn to go shopping for myself, to know that I needed this help for myself. I really hated doing the food shopping. And one of the biggest things about, I've lost a lot of weight. And I'm going to post that, by the way. I have videos along the way of losing the weight. And it's an ongoing process still, and when it comes to that, I'll say this about that. You can't live on yesterday's diet. I can't say, well, I ate well last week, so this week, I can eat poorly. It doesn't really work that way because it comes back very quickly. Taking care of yourself and remaining in shape, especially at my age, is an ongoing process. And for myself, because of the way I am and the way my mentality works, I don't take cheat days. And that's the thing that I do for myself, is to go through the bother of listening to me complain about having to eat well every day and putting up with my annoyance, my annoying way that I complain, because I do. And it can be very annoying. And I get this whiny quality to my voice that only I really hear. But, it's a matter of being willing to go out of my way for me. I've had people ask me to write things for them. I like to write. I do, but I don't like to do it on a regular basis. But for what I do in my life now, between the blogging and the, writing up notes for the podcasts and stuff like this takes some dedication, and I have to sit down and do it. And it's funny, I have a friend who I help out. I do resumes. He's in a business. He doesn't feel comfortable with his articulation. And so he asks me to do these, and I'll do it anytime for him because he's a good friend and he's a nice guy. And there are certain things he does for me. He goes out of his way for me. He's a great carpenter. He's done a lot of work around my house and stuff like that. And he's helped me with a lot of stuff. And that's what friends do for each other, right? But what friends also do for each other, if I'm a friend to myself, then I would do those things for me. And if I can sit there at the drop of a hat and write up a thing for him for his business, I've written letters for him in his business, whether it's to clients or to the management company that he works with. I've done those things. He says, well, you got to sit down and do that for yourself. And so I've had to set aside hours in my day for that when I'm going to, take care of myself. And part of taking care of myself is, again, getting up early and exercising, getting up and doing, I like to do prayer and meditation time and to take time to do that and to take the same suggestions for myself that I suggest to other people. Because I used to be, take my advice. I'm not using it, I was a big one for that. And, I try not to do that anymore. And in being a better friend to myself, I think it's important to be able to listen to what's coming out of my mouth when I talk to other people. I remember a friend telling me I was going through some stuff and I was telling him and talking to him about it. And I was like, I'm really kind of stuck on this. And he said, well, you shouldn't be. Like, you know what to do. And what he said was he said, well, what would you do if this other person, a very good friend of mine, he says, what would you do if he was asking you, if he was going through this exact thing, what would you tell him to do? And I said, well, that's, I was blah, 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 blah. He did go through this. And I told him, da, 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 da. He said, how did it work out? I said, well, actually, he did it and it worked out well. He said, well, then why wouldn't you give yourself the same suggestions? Why wouldn't you counsel yourself the same way? He said it is a good suggestion, and you can be that kind of a friend to yourself. And he didn't put it that way because I don't really talk like that with my friends, to be honest with you. And you'd have to know the guy I'm talking about. He's a real Queens guy, and he's not what you would call delicate. Anyway. But he is a good friend, and he treats me that way. As a friend, he tells me the truth, and he's very honest with me in that way. Like, take your own advice. To speak to basically, and what that advice was is to speak to myself the way that I would speak to another friend. To when I'm having a situation in my life that I'm trying to come to a decision on or something like that, to treat myself as though I was an outsider asking me for my advice, for my opinion on this, for my suggestions, and going about it that way. So anyway, I think it's an important lesson. And if you are one of those people that's a better friend to others than you are to yourself, maybe it's time to start being better to yourself and to treat yourself as though you were a good friend and to go about it that way. I have another friend who's extremely generous with other people, very generous. First guy to pick up a check, but he's the last guy to do things for himself. And he at times denies himself. And I say, be a better friend. And if you're listening to this, come on, man, let's go to Scotland. I'm dying to take the trip with you. Let's go. Anyway, it's another subject altogether. It's an inside thing. I want to thank you for listening today. My name is Dwight Gillespie. This is the Change Your Life podcast. Again, if you haven't done so already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And by all means, if you heard something today, if you have that friend who goes out of the way, bends over backwards for other people and doesn't do anything for themselves and doesn't seem to help themselves, show this to them. Maybe they'll get something from it. By all means, help your neighbor, be a good neighbor, be a good friend, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you for listening. My name is Dwight Gillespie. See you next time. Bye.